Thank you very much. We've got some time for questions. Why don't we start with Chris Shipp from ITV? As for Europe, look, I am 100% focused when it comes to Europe on this renegotiation and getting it right for our country. When it comes to our border controls, I'd simply make this point that there are any number of opposition politicians in France who would love to tear up the excellent agreement we have with France to make sure we have our borders on their side of the channel. And I don't think we should give those politicians any excuse to do that. And I think perhaps this goes to a larger point about this whole issue. There are lots of problems facing our continent, whether it's slow growth in the Eurozone, whether it's the migration crisis that's happening. And the fact is, whatever decision we take about our future in or out of the European Union, we have to deal with these problems. These problems don't mysteriously go away because we leave this organisation or indeed stay in this organisation. The question we've got to ask ourselves is, how do we best deal with these problems?
Thank you, Prime Minister. Chris Shipp from ITV News.
On the issue of Europe and our borders, look, I'll make the point again. Yes, this is a bilateral agreement. It's a good agreement. It's an agreement that means that our borders are effectively in Calais, not in Dover. That is good for Britain. I want us to keep that. I work very hard with my French counterparts, as does the Home Secretary, to make sure that we do keep that. That is why we've helped with fencing. That's why we've helped with finances. That's why we've helped with border guards and cooperation and all the rest of it. But the fact is there are a lot of opposition politicians in France who would love an excuse to tear up that treaty and would like the border not to be in France, but to be in Britain. And I don't want to give people an excuse to do that. And this goes to a bigger argument. If we can get this deal in Europe, if we can get this renegotiation fixed, and we can stay in a reformed Europe, you know what you get. You know that the borders stay in Calais. You know that we have a seat determining the rules when it comes to the future of Europe. You know that we have that vital information, whether it's about terrorists or criminals travelling around Europe, because we're part of those organisations. And the people who want to take a different path, they have to start answering some questions about what it would look like if we're not in that organisation and not party to those rules. And I know they fear that, but the time will come pretty soon where they have to start answering some of those questions.
Reoffending since before you became Prime Minister, and yet since you got into the door of number 10, you've cut the budget of the Ministry of Defence by...
Well, Michael Gove, like the whole government, supports the renegotiation that is taking place and was elected on a ticket, as we all were, to deliver that renegotiation, which we are some of the way through. It's not completed yet, but I think we've made very good progress. The things that we set out in the letter to Donald Tusk that we wanted to achieve, those things have by and large been achieved. Many of them we were told were impossible. It would be impossible to get restrictions on welfare. It would be impossible to get 4-year restrictions on welfare. Europe would never sign up to changes to ever closer union. These things and many more are things that are in the process of being achieved. And that whole process, that negotiation process, is backed by the whole government.
Of the Ministry of Defence by 25%, it was 9 billion, it's now... Sorry, the Ministry of Justice, did I get that wrong? You've cut the